Welcome, everybody. This is Ryan Staley, and I am back with a very special guest today. I have Amos Bar-Joseph, who is the founder and CEO of Swan AI. Something cool that Amos is doing is he's a trailblazer using AI agents. And what he kind of defined and stuck a fork in the ground, or whatever you want to say in the ground, is him and two other founders are not going to hire anybody, grow to 30 million in ARR with just 3 people and a swarm of AI agents. So I thought he'd be awesome to have on the show. I thought you would enjoy him. Amos, welcome. Happy to have you, man.
Thank you so much, Ryan. I have a question. Can I actually take you with me to like every social gathering so you can introduce me to these people there? That would be amazing.
Well, so you like the podcast voice. Yeah. My family makes fun of me. My kids are like, or my wife actually is probably the key one who likes to make fun of me. She's like, oh, are you going to use your podcast voice to do this? And I'm like, shut up. Right. So anyways, man, like you got to bring the heat, right? Because I remember when I first started, it's like, yeah, you got this. So anyways, I appreciate you appreciating me, appreciating you, if that makes sense. So
that makes a ton of sense. I wish I had a voice like yours, Ryan.
well, you're doing some cool shit, man. You got a voice that in writing that I love. And that's kind of how we came about. I saw what you're doing on LinkedIn. I'm like, hey, this would be a cool guy to have on the show. So walk me through, man. Give us a little bit of background about you, your unique point of view in terms of how you're tackling the problem that has been classically handled in a different way.
Yeah. So it's not my first rodeo. I've built 2 B2B startups before. Did one with enterprise sales. The other one was more like SMB sales, but both of them were purely about the unicorn playbook, the growth at all costs playbook, where you raise big before you hit product market fit. You grow to a 30 people team before you get to the first million ARR. And then you try to brute force your way and some lucky, old fashioned way to get to $10 million ARR. And if you are lucky to get there, like your entire company is built on a very sick foundation. And so when I actually started this company, Swan, together with my 2 co-founders who were with me in these 2 previous shows, we actually had a interesting discussion. We said, why don't we actually rewrite the playbook? It's actually time to write a different playbook. How do you scale a startup in 2025? And it's not that only that the growth at all cost model is dead, is that when you look at AI agents, there's finally an opportunity for startups to scale with intelligence, not with headcount. So we, told each other, why not we have like a bold bet between friends? We said we'll scale to $30 million ARR, just the 3 founders. We won't hire anyone. It will be just us. And we'll build an army of AI agents instead of investing time in hiring people and building org charts and doing a lot of meetings. We'll just work with these agents to scale. And, what started as just a close conversation as, over time evolved into a movement that we call the autonomous business. Today, we're getting close to already 200 businesses using the platform. These are like real businesses that a 3-person team supports them. So it's getting excited every day.
That's awesome. And I appreciate that. It's funny because like really I was looking at hiring someone for a role. And as I was going through like kind of the jobs to be done or the pieces on what I wanted them to handle, I started thinking, I'm like, I could automate and have most of this done, and I don't need to hire a person for this role. So after I went through the exercise, what I originally thought I needed for the role evolved into something completely different. So I could relate to what you're talking about because, like I said, I literally just did this a couple of weeks ago, and I'm like, shit, this is mostly automated, or I could string together workflows or prompts and use case. Anyways, so it makes a lot of sense. So let's get into it. Oh, go ahead. What are you gonna say, man?
Yeah, already I have something to say, right? We started off the bat with something interesting because you actually touched like the most important part of building an autonomous business right at the start, which is the fact that when you revise that job description, you've actually discovered that there are like different things that you actually need, right? So if you look at AI as core to that role, then you were able to reimagine that entire function. So what I wanted to start with is that the entire goal of building an autonomous business, to be the first movers into that space, is to discover how an autonomous business actually look like. And it's not about automating ourselves away. It's about reinventing these processes with human AI collaboration at the core of the operating system. So I loved your
so let's walk through that, man. So like and I know how I kind of approach it and how I approach it with my clients, because I'm a big believer too that you could really grow an organization substantially just by multiplying intelligence. And so, like, what do you think is the belief system and the mindset structure you need to have to start to go down this path and to start to orchestrate a company that is designed from the ground up to be AI first? We're not talking about all the crap of like CEOs from big companies saying we're now an AI first company, right? But what do you really think it means from your perspective as it relates to that?
Yeah. So it all starts with a constraint, with a simple constraint. We can't throw bodies at a scaling challenge. That's the number one constraint that you start with. And if you tell yourself that no matter what, if you want to scale a specific process, you cannot add more headcount to actually scale it, then what do? Right? And if you add another constraint, okay, we're going to use intelligence to do it, and you connect these two, then okay, you start looking at problems differently and you start looking at solutions in a very different way. And what you start to follow basically is kind of like an uncharted territory where you try to reimagine that process in an iterative process. Okay, so it's about iteration of human AI collaboration step by step. And when you look at, for example, the best use case in Swan that we actually seen it firsthand is, the biggest scaling challenge that we had early on was support, right? So, we're serving businesses. It's not like a consumer, like a prosumer solution. When you're serving businesses, you need to give that extra support touch. They want their answers. They want the service. They want to understand how to use the platform. They pay big bucks for it, and now they want it back. And so we start, getting all these support tickets, and usually what a startup does, they hire a support rep or maybe even a support manager to build the support organization right from the start. And we said, okay, we can't do that. What can we do? Let's add AI to the process. How can we do it? So we just built a simple AI bot into Slack, because that's where Swan lives, by the way. It's a Slack app that you chat with and work with in Slack. And so we just added another layer where Swan is now able to answer simple support questions within that same interface within Slack. It has a knowledge base that we gave it, and now it is able to answer these questions. But what happened initially is 80%, 90% almost of the questions, we didn't have answers to them in the knowledge base, so Swan didn't know how to answer them, right? So we added another layer. It was an iterative process. We added another layer where Swan is now able to escalate a question to the founder if it doesn't know the answer. And so you could use Swan to reply to that user. So the process is more streamlined and you get that AI capabilities when you reply to the user. But then we say, okay, why not add another process there? Why don't Swan will document that Q&A into the database, into the knowledge base every time you answer a question, so that you only need to answer a question once. And so what happened is just a simple exercise in adding a simple layer of AI automation evolved into a self-learning support system that knows when to escalate to the founders. So there's that human in the loop, but knows when to document it and learn from these interactions. And now it covers more than 75% of our support requests and thousands of tickets each month, basically.
Okay. So I like how you just kind of kept building on top of that. So what did you build that on? Like, how did you build or construct that? Like, are you using Slack's AI? Because I know Slack has an AI model. Are you using a no code model originally when you started, or how did you design that support agent?
Yeah, so the brains behind the agents are Ido, the CPO, and Neve, the CTO. I'm the spokesman, but I know how to speak about it. Basically, we use NA10 for the logic and all of the orchestration around it. We use Slack as a conversational interface because we believe that every agent should have a conversational interface so that you can interact with it, you can give it feedback. Every agent has a memory in our design, so you could always tell it things and it could add it to the memory. And so next time it will encounter a similar use case, it will be able to take that feedback into consideration. So we're building on top of N, and Slack as kind of like the interface. And that's how we connect things usually. We also have a lot of different tools that our agents has access to just by the nature of our product, because Swan, it's an agent for go-to-market companies, go-to-market organizations. And so we already have a lot of, commercial agreements with data providers. We already have built-in interesting, CRM integrations, things like that. So we just added these out-of-the-box integrations to these NA10 workflows. And what you get are very powerful agents that has capabilities of enriching and getting B2B data and searching online using Perplexity, getting into your CRM data, getting into your emails, things like that.
Okay. And then from a data store perspective with the self-learning agent, just to like put a bow on this, right? And then we'll move on because I'm curious. Like, are you storing that data in Pinecone? Are you storing it in the cloud, or kind of how are you basically capturing and storing that data?
Yeah, so Pinecone is the main database that we use, but we actually learned that a lot of information could be stored in the prompt level as well. So
Right.
we try to differentiate where can we actually put that directly into the prompt. So for example, maybe your ICP is something that it's great for the agent to always have, as if it's like a specific type. You don't need to save it somewhere else and then kind of like fetch it every time. So there's like things that you can actually save at the prompt layer, but then for like more bigger context that you need for specific use case, you want to save it in Python.
Okay. Yeah, that makes sense. I imagine that improves latency as well. So like if it's calling multiple sources, it probably slows it down, I would imagine. Is that kind of why you did that?
It also makes it easy to not always try to foresee in which use cases would you actually need to call that database and to
Yeah.
specific enrich it with additional context. So it's an action. It's something that happens, it's not natural for the agent to do it. You need to go to Pinecone to get that data. So if
Mm-hmm.
you don't need to think of all the use cases in advance, it makes it easier for you. And that's actually a super important point. What we try to do when like our core principle when we are building agents is that we don't try to optimize for use case coverage at the early phases of building an agent. It's not about an agent that can solve all these different use cases. It's an agent that has the core capabilities structured in and could answer 70% of the use cases at the beginning. But then we have these feedback loops in Swan, that memory and that ability to actually tell the agent how to improve itself within Slack, that gets you from that 70-80% to that 99%.
Okay. So you have your starting point. You obviously have your data store. You embed it, like the prompting, if you will, to incorporate like the core foundations. And then like that, you're using Slack as the feedback loop to continually update it. And then it learns from that and then continues to optimize. Okay.
Yeah, exactly.
Very sharp, man. Love that. So let's shift gears a little bit. And I think what we'll do is, I know I'm going to have you back for episode 2. For episode 1, let's stay on the like how you're leveraging this internal agent wise, and then I want to hear how in the next episode we're going to talk more about like the go to market use cases with Swan. I think it would be cool to go deep and maybe even show it if you'd be up for it, man. So
Yeah.
well, let's talk about you because, like, I know internally, being that you're the spokesman or the prime minister, I think you said, right? What you mentioned also that you have 20 plus agents. I thought that was a number supporting you. Like, what does that look like, and how do you have that set up to support you? Because if you're, basically one person working on sales and you have 200 clients over, I think it's like a 3 to 4 month time frame, that's fantastic, man. But like, what does that look like, and how are you making that work?
Yeah, definitely. So the first thing we realized when we started building the AI agents is that, we didn't look for these off-the-shelf AI agents to solve all of our problems. We didn't look for AI SDRs or like for AI support agents. It wasn't about that. What we realized is that we have our own unique characteristics of our business. Me, myself, as the solo GTM practitioner
Mm-hmm.
at the company. It's a very unique situation. I cover a lot of areas that it's not normal for one person to do. And also I have my weaks and strengths. And so what we started with is building an army of agents around my core advantages and core strength that I have in go to market and around my blind spots. And in hindsight, when we reverse engineer it, you can look at it kind of like as a funnel. And I'll explain how, these 20 agents, and we're going to talk about not all of them right now, but how they actually work in an orchestration mode in the funnel, and how they're all, part of a bigger system that is working together, right? They are not like completely isolated. They are working in tandem, basically. So my biggest passion, and that's where the AI agents are built around, is content, is storytelling, is writing. That's what I love doing the most. That's my unfair advantage as a human being. And so I write posts on LinkedIn documenting our journey on, becoming an autonomous business. And what we started building is these agents around that. So first of all, we built Shakespeare that helps me, shorten the amount of time I spend on actually writing these posts and performing research and bringing data, to make my post data backed. It has a knowledge base of all the other posts that I've actually written, all our manifesto and content pillars and things like that. And it's able to synthesize it. So together we collaborate in taking it the time to write a post from 3 hours, 2 days, sometimes to 20, 30 minutes, to generate consistently over 1.5 million impressions every month on LinkedIn. And then if you go a step below that in the funnel, you look at the people that are engaging with the posts, not just the impressions, right? So I get over 15,000 reactions to my posts each month. And so we have the observer, which actually monitors the engagement on these posts, the leads that are engaging with my post to surface ICP leads that are repeatedly engaging with these posts and showing kind of strong sentiment of alignment with the content that I'm talking about, and then surface these leads on Slack so that I can reach out to them and in a very and get extremely high reply rates based on that. Then if you go another step down in the funnel, you have connection requests, people that saw my content, but then they actually sent a connection request, like a follower or a connection request to myself, and I get around 300 connection requests each day. And so we have the connector, which goes over these connection requests, high intent, ICP leads, basically, and starts a conversation with them in LinkedIn so I can follow up if there's a reply. I don't need to be the first mover. I'm the second mover to these conversations. And I have a very fixed process to take it from the reply to a meeting booked if they are indeed qualified. And so after that, I have folks coming, to the website, actually. Then we have the Swan agent, which takes care of all, the website visitors that didn't convert and actually identify who they are, surface high intent leads, and enables me to reach out to them on LinkedIn. Then we have 20,000 monthly visitors. So that's a lot of volume to actually work with. If you go below that, we have the inbound forms. So we get around 2,000, intakes, inbound forms in Swan in the website. And so we have an agent that goes over them, routes these leads into high value leads with a demo with me. And we have free trial, which are low value leads. And then we have non-relevant leads that go to a waiting list. And the process continues from there, Ryan. We after that, we have a prep agent that helps me prep for the demos. Then I have a follow-up agent that documents all the conversations in the CRM, prepares tasks for me, so I don't need to think about a meeting. I just go into the CRM. I know exactly what I need to do. So this is kind of an example of how they all work in tandem in the way that there's a funnel that is built around me, how I work, what I need help with, and what I'm good at.
Okay. That's fantastic, man. I love the meticulous detail. So if I'm reading the tea leaves right, or just kind of how you're walking through this, are you using all the pre-website basically agents? Are those all N8N, and then the Swan agents are everything from the website moving forward, or outside the research, right? But where's the delineation there of what's kind of homegrown, and then what's part of the solution that you guys offer?
Yeah, so the majority is actually homegrown. Swan, right now, the main use case is actually turning your website visitors that didn't convert, that didn't fill out a form, into qualified pipeline, taking it all the process from, identifying who they are, qualifying them, segmenting them, finding the contacts, personalizing messages, and reaching out on LinkedIn and email. So it takes that process end to end. That's what Swan actually does. All the rest of the agents are homegrown. But I would say, and guys, if you're listening, you're the first to hear it actually, because we're launching our beta soon. In kind of like the next 2 to 3 weeks. And it is an autonomous GTM engineer that will actually help you create agentic workflows for your go-to-market motions from prompt to pipeline. Basically, you can turn any go-to-market idea that you'd like to have into kind of like an agentic motion. So all these agents that we're built that are homegrown, what we want to provide SMBs with is that engineering resource that could just build it for them. They will be able to just chat with it in Slack, and it will be able to take all these capabilities that it's doing on the website visitors, but across different use cases.
Well, that's exciting, man. Super exciting. And what we'll do is we're up on time, unfortunately. So we'll get into that a little bit deeper in the next episode, get a little bit deeper into Swan and what you're doing right there. So I think this is a great point to stop. So where can people find you? Where can they find more about Swan AI? And then we'll take things from there.
Yeah, so I have a newsletter called The Big Shift, where it's kind of like you get a front row seat behind the scenes of building an autonomous business, where I share, the wins and losses, the frameworks and the playbooks that we identify when we try to scale to $30 million ARR with just 3 founders. And also I've built a GPT in ChatGPT called the Autonomous Business OS that has already thousands of conversations. So if you want to learn how to build an autonomous business, you can just go to that GPT, and instead of just talking about it, just build it.
Love it, man. Well, thanks for being on the show, Amos. It was fantastic. You did an awesome job, delivered as expected. So I appreciate you being on, man. And look forward to seeing y'all on the next episode.
Thank you, Ryan, for having me.